Both.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, I think we're live on Facebook now. So welcome, Ivy. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to hear about Washington State University, especially because we have a lot of students in Southern California who, have heard of Seattle and Washington and Pacific Northwest, but, of course, it's not all the same, just like California is not all the same, right? So we're pretty excited to hear, about what makes WSU, the college that it is, what the surrounding area is like, all of that. I'm Josephine Borman. I'm the founder of Strive to Learn and an educational consultant. And William, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is William Jackie, and I'm the academic coordinator for Strive to Learn and a college counselor as well.
And William, you said you spent some time in Washington too, right? We were just chatting a little bit before we all went live.
Yeah, absolutely. So I when I was a kid, I lived in Tacoma, Washington for 6 or 7 years, which is about an hour outside of Seattle. And I also lived in Seattle for a year or two. So I have I've always loved the Northwest. I have a strong connection to it, and I can't recommend it enough to students who are, okay with a little bit of rain and interested in the kind of warm, inviting culture of the Northwest, I think.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Ivy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and start having us meet WSU.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. I am from Washington originally, but I am based in San Diego. So I specifically work with students in Orange County, San Diego County, Riverside County, and then Arizona as well. So I live here. Usually I get to actually see students in high schools and go to college fairs, but just been recruiting from my home here in San Diego. So very different, but I grew up in the Seattle area, been all over Washington State. And I can definitely attest that it is definitely very diverse in terms of weather, people all across the state. So a lot of folks think of Washington and think of like Seattle, they think rain, milder weather year round. But I am here to tell you a little bit about Eastern Washington. WSU is the second largest school in Washington, but we are in a very small college town type of environment, and we are like just about 10 minutes away from the border of Idaho. So University of Idaho are close neighbors. We actually have some shared programming with them. There's a bike trail that connects our campuses together. So it's definitely a really fun environment if you're looking for a college town environment. And then, yes, the weather is definitely more extreme in Eastern Washington. So we get a lot of snow. My background right now is campus in the winter. If I grew up in Seattle, a couple inches of snow, super rare, but the whole city would shut down. Eastern Washington, it's just a normal winter day. So really have to prepare yourself, get a parka, get winter boots to hike up and down the hills on campus at WSU. And then we average a little more sun over on that side of the state. So definitely kind of all 4 seasons over in Pullman area. But I can share my screen if that works. And do you want me to just kind of go through my kind of presentation?
Yeah, well, I love that you already pointed out kind of the difference to Seattle, because I think that our students here have heard a lot about like UW, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the big universities that, if they're not very familiar with Washington State universities, that's the one they may have heard of.
Yeah.
And kind of, it always comes to mind kind of the massive amounts of rain and dreariness that can happen. So what I'm hearing you saying is that it's a little harsher than winter, but you get more snow and sunshine. So more of a winter than a dreariness.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, University of Washington, we're both the 2 tier 1 research institutes in Washington. Our entire town, including students, is smaller than the population of students at University of Washington. So very different in terms of size, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'd love for you to take it away and just kind of give us your presentation, whatever you have prepared, so that we can all get to know WSU.
Perfect. All right. All right. So I love showing this sunset. Eastern Washington's really known for its gorgeous sunsets. And actually before our colors changed to crimson and gray, we used to be baby blue and pink to reflect the sunsets over in Eastern Washington. So it's a little fun fact for you. And yeah, so WSU is a large school. We do have 6 campuses, but the campus I'll be kind of focusing in on today is our flagship campus, Pullman, kind of that main campus. That's where you're going to see all of our like residence halls, athletics, majority of our 200 programs, kind of that student life experience. We do have a global campus, which is like our online degree programs. Right now, most of our students are doing virtual classes anyways, but the global campus has like fully online degrees that are kind of more self-paced, outside of like this pandemic that we're experiencing. And then Spokane is one of our newer campuses. That's where our medical kind of health sciences campus is. We started a medical school, I think we just graduated one of our like most recent classes. So relatively new, but WSU is the land grant university in Washington, which means that we kind of have a specific mission to serve specific needs of Washington state. So we needed more medical professionals. So we started that medical school. We have our program over in Everett, which is pretty small, has a lot of like engineering, computer sciences. That's where Boeing headquarters is. So we have a lot of students in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering that do internships with them. Vancouver is a larger campus. And then I love to talk about Tri-Cities because that's where our viticulture and enology program is. So if you are interested in working in a winery or interning in a vineyard, a lot of wine country in that part of Washington. And then we also have a huge nursing school, which some of you might be interested in. I'll talk kind of about some of our 2 and 2 programs where you would start in Pullman and eventually head up to our health sciences campus in Spokane. So we'll kind of zoom in on Pullman. And again, kind of for reference, it's about 5 hours from Seattle. I guess probably more like maybe 5 or 6, depending on traffic as you're getting over the passes and out of the city. And then, yeah, just a few minutes away from Idaho. And then Spokane is the 2nd largest city in Washington, and that's probably a little over an hour away from our campus. However, you can fly into Pullman. If you were coming from California, you'd probably fly into Seattle, into the SeaTac airport. Then you can take a smaller plane right into Pullman. Our airport's just, a couple miles away from campus. So pretty convenient. And then this kind of gives you a sense of what I was talking about when I said small town feel, rural area. So the population of Pullman, with those students, about 2/3 of the town are the students. So right now, with a lot of students virtually, it's pretty quiet, but normally it's bustling with students. The average age of somebody in Pullman is about 22. So you're going to see a lot of folks your own age. A lot of people stick around on the weekends because it is kind of far away from those major cities. So people aren't, it's not a commuter school. People stick around and really have a lot of fun on the weekends. You can't also underestimate the amount of time you're just going to be studying on the weekends too. But a lot of students like to do outdoor activities. We have an outdoor center that leads trips. Sometimes there's different ski resorts that you can carpool out to, hiking trails, a lot of mountain biking, things like that. All right, and then this is just a little, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I have a quick question. So when you say the small town feel, and I mean, that's a pretty impressive number, 2/3 of Pullman's population are students, right? So it sounds like, it sounds very much like a college town and young vibe. Would you describe it that way or?
Yeah, I would say kind of like a traditional college town vibe. So it is really walkable. You can get, the whole campus probably takes like maybe 15 minutes to walk across. And then this photo doesn't really do it justice, but the area of Washington this is called the Palouse, which is like rolling hills. So we have something called cougar calves at WSU from like hiking up and down hills to get to classes. And then if you kind of walk down the hill from campus, is the downtown Pullman area. So a lot of like mom and pop shops, little restaurants, coffee shops and things like that. And then pretty like bikeable. In the winter, you'll want to use your bus pass if you're living off campus, for example, but pretty easy to get around just on foot. And then you do have a bus pass that's included with your student fees if you want to, go out to grocery shop, things like that. Students like for larger kind of shopping excursions will sometimes go up to the Spokane area. And then Moscow, Idaho, which is where University of Idaho is located. They're another little college town right next to us. So yeah, definitely, you kind of have to see it to get a feel for it sometimes, I think. Yeah, so, okay, did that kind of answer your question though? Okay, perfect. Yes, very traditional college town feel. Yeah, so most of our students come into us as freshmen. However, we do have a really transfer friendly process. Probably we'll see more students, maybe, going to community college first, especially with kind of uncertainty around the pandemic. Hopefully we'll be back in person in the fall. But transferring to WSU is super easy. I love to kind of point that out because in California, you typically have to get an associate's degree before you can transfer to a lot of universities in California, and that's really not the case with WSU and with a lot of schools out of state. There's just not quite the same population concerns in other areas. So very easy to transfer. We do get a lot of out-of-state students, a lot of students in California, which is why I live here. But we also see students from all over the country and typically a lot of international students as well. So we have a specific residence hall where a lot of our international students live. So if you're interested in living with a student from another country, that could be a great residence hall to put on your list. All right. And then student life is really kind of the hallmark of WSU. Again, I think it's because of that college town feel, that community that's built, but very, very school spirited. You're going to see a lot of alumni coming back into town on game days. You're going to see people yelling, "Go Cougs," if they see you outside of Pullman with a Coug logo on your clothes or in the airport. So it's really fun to be a part of. But yeah, we have about 15 athletic teams, football, women's soccer, tennis, things like that. We also have club sports where you still get to compete with other schools. And then we also have intramurals, of course, where you're just competing against other WSU students. Maybe that's a dodgeball team or a video game intramural, something like that, soccer team, just to stay active. We have 400 student clubs. So those include our culturally based clubs. A lot of our culturally based clubs actually have like specific designated spaces in our student union building. There's a space for, it's called GSORC, which is for LGBTQ students. There's a women's center. And then there are clubs related to your major specifically. I think there's about like 18 clubs just in our College of Engineering alone. There's, I think, 7 or 8 clubs in our College of Business. So definitely ways to network. It's really great to get project experience and get, work on things with other students, especially when you're looking for an internship or some sort of job after you graduate. And then, of course, encourage you to join a fun club as well, just to blow off some steam. And then Greek life is big at WSU. About 1/4 of our students are part of the Greek system, especially as out-of-state students. That's definitely something great to consider, really build your community. And actually, a fun fact is our students in Greek life actually have a higher than average average a higher GPA than students not in Greek life. So kind of cool. And then, yeah, our students also volunteer in the area. There's a center for students looking for volunteer hours. So definitely things going on all the time. And then another thing I like to highlight, again, because I really was stressing that small town feel, is that we have a student entertainment board, and we have something called Spring Fest every year. Not this year because of COVID, but normally we bring in different folks to perform. We've had Khalid, Billie Eilish, like Snoop Dogg in really past years. So definitely like some fun concerts that we bring to students all the way out in Pullman. Okay, cool. Living on campus. So again, last year we didn't require students to live on campus, but traditionally 1 year on campus is what we require. We find that that really helps students get connected and stay at WSU because they find that community and get the support they need. So we have 20 residence halls you can choose from. Again, there was our Global Scholars dorm if you're interested in living with an international student. We have an honors dorm. I'll talk about the honors college in a little bit. We also have some residence halls that are related to different fields of study. You're not, required to be in a STEM field if you want to live in the STEM dorm, but if you're looking, for that type of community. As freshmen, something I love to point out is that you're going to have classes all over campus. So it doesn't really matter, if you have to live near the College of Business if you're a business student as a freshman. So definitely don't stress that too much. But our residence halls vary in cost. depending on how recently renovated versus how vintage, we like to use the word vintage instead of older, that residence hall is. And then they also really range in terms of like hallway style. If you want to kind of live on a hallway with a big shared bathroom, usually those are divided out by gender, each floor. Or if you want to live in a more private sort of suite style residence hall, those are available as well. And then there's certainly dining halls on campus, campus markets, if you just want to stop by a Starbucks on campus for coffee and a bagel between classes. And then I love to point out that living off campus and in the Pullman area is super affordable. So I live in San Diego. I've also lived in the Seattle area. And I can attest that it's probably like at least half the amount of rent costs to live in Pullman. So you could probably get your own apartment, like a 1-bedroom apartment, $700 to $800 a month. Maybe, rent a room in a house with friends, $200, $300 a month. So very, very different from other areas of the country. And again, you'll have a bus pass to get you around. We also have campus apartments if you want to continue to live in WSU housing throughout. Okay, cool. I'll jump into academics because that's kind of the most important thing to talk about. But we have over 200 fields of study. And another thing I like to point out that I think is something California students think about a lot is that most of our majors are not direct entry. So that means you can come in, you can know, I think I want to be a nursing major. I think I want to do psychology. I want to major in broadcast journalism. That's great. We'll assign you an advisor in that field right away, starting at freshman year. But if you want to change your major interest at any point, that's totally fine. A lot of our majors, as long as you complete the prerequisite courses and maybe have a specific GPA, you're going to be admitted into that major. Some of our majors do have an additional application process. For example, our teacher education program, nursing, our athletic training program have additional applications you'll fill out, but you will fill those out once you are a WSU student, probably during your sophomore year. We do have like 2 additional programs I'll talk about that you could think about during your senior year of high school. And I'll talk about that when I get into our honors college a little bit. But our most popular major is psychology. A lot of students love that field. There's 5 different areas of specialization you can go into, a lot of great majors that you could potentially double major or do a major and a minor, maybe criminal justice and criminology, sociology. And there's actually areas where you can present your own ideas for research and get that funded. So, you can actually do your own research in the psychology area instead of joining in on a professor's project. Other areas that we're known for, nursing, typically like once you're a WSU student, average GPA to get into the nursing college is about a 3.8. And again, we'll have specific pre-health advisors that can work alongside you to help you be competitive for the program you're interested in. Pre-med, for example, pre-pharmacy, pre-vet. We have the only vet school in Washington. So a lot of students might compare us to like UC Davis for their vet school. So if you're considering that, definitely consider WSU. We have a couple different majors that provide you with all those pre-vet requirements: zoology, animal science, wildlife ecology and conservation, neuroscience. And we have so many different areas where you can get actual experience working with animals. So WSU has a big agriculture program too. So there's a lot of horses, cows, pigs on campus, sheep that you can work with, get hands-on experience. Another really unusual thing at WSU is our bear center. So if you're, wildlife ecology, conservation, if you're a zoology major, chances are you could be working with a bear if you're a pre-vet student before like a cat or a dog. So we have 7 rescued grizzly bears on our campus, and a couple different departments on campus do research with them. So definitely something to check out if you ever come visit our campus, walk by the Bear Center. All right, so we have, I mentioned veterinary science, nursing, engineering is also big at WSU. We have pretty much every area of engineering except for aerospace engineering, although we do have an aerospace engineering club that you can join, but that is something that a lot of students are interested in. We have a huge range of biology majors, some really awesome new bio and chem buildings that were built recently. social sciences, we have a really great College of Communication. So if you want experience getting to work in actual studios, putting on like maybe you're producing shows, maybe you're sitting behind the desk and anchoring a news program, there's some really exciting opportunities for that at WSU too. So yeah, if you have specific majors, I'm happy to try to talk about them. And as an admissions counselor, I can always connect you with a specific advisor as well that can kind of give you more details about each program. And then yes, we have research opportunities available for students. We have a whole office of undergraduate research that can get you connected. And I think that's another nice benefit of the fact that we're a tier 1 research institute, but we're a little bit smaller in size and we're very undergrad focused. So it's not quite as competitive as some other really large research universities to actually get those opportunities. You know, you don't have to be that 4.0 college student to get that opportunity. So that is nice. And then study abroad kind of feels out of reach right now, not a lot of traveling, but in general, students can study abroad pretty much anywhere. We can work with your budget, your time amount, if you have 2 weeks to spare, if you want to do a summer trip, a whole semester abroad. Maybe you want to, actually be at another university for a semester. Maybe that's in Ireland, join a rugby team, really get that experience. Maybe you want to actually go with just other WSU students, maybe with a WSU faculty member abroad. Or maybe you want to live in like an actual family's home, really immerse yourself in a language. There's so many different options. And then another thing I should point out as a small town is that we do have a lot of different sort of career fairs, internship fairs, bring out industry professionals to come out and recruit students. So they do come to WSU for students in that regard. Okay, now I'll talk about the Honors College really briefly. So our Honors College is an additional opportunity that you can consider. It would go along with any major that you chose. So typically students start in the Honors College their freshman year. And as a WSU student, regardless of your major, you're going to have to complete what we call UCORE, University Common Requirements, sort of like your general education requirements. So even if you're, a biology major, you still need to take some English classes, some humanities, things like that. So if you're an honors student, instead of those UCORE classes, you would instead complete the honors core curriculum. And those classes would be capped at 25 students and be very discussion based. So I kind of like to say like it's almost kind of getting like a smaller like private school experience while also getting to be a part of like a big research university with a lot of resources, a lot of events and things like that. So really great opportunity if you kind of find yourself maybe in that GPA range, looking for that type of environment. It could be a good fit. And then typically like your final year of college, you would complete some sort of capstone project, some sort of maybe research with a faculty member, a paper, some sort of event. And then what else can I mention with that? If you're not an honors student, typically like your first year classes might be maybe 50 to 70 students. About 80% of our classes are 50 students or less. But yeah, if you're an honors student, your professor is probably going to know your name like in the first week or two. So yeah, kind of a cool opportunity. And especially as an out-of-state student, it's just nice to like have another area where you can build community. So there's an additional application. It's another thing I should point out is that there's no additional tuition cost if you're an honors student. So it's going to be the same tuition cost either way. But yeah, so there's an additional application for them. If you're a senior this year, you can still apply. Their application usually stays open into like partway through the spring, and they just sort of stay open till they're full. But yeah.
Quick question. Are there any specific scholarships that are open to only honors college students?
There are some, and I'll talk a little bit about some scholarships that are automatically awarded based off GPA, but we do have an additional scholarship application. And if you're an honors student, you would get reviewed for those additional ones. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that process too. But in general, like our application to our university, there's no essay. Sometimes we'll ask for maybe some sort of brief statement from you. We'll ask for some letters of recommendation, more information if we're maybe have some questions before we make an admissions decision. But in general, we're just using your transcript to make that admissions decision. But for the honors college, there are 2 500-word essays that you would submit. So yeah, so a little bit more about the application process. Our application is actually going to be open till March 15th this year. And then usually in the fall, our application opens up kind of like late August typically. And so you definitely have plenty of time to apply. There's an application fee of $70. We're not part of the common application. We have our own application. And then there are a few waivers for students with financial need. This year, all we are requiring is a transcript. We took out the test score requirement. We're test blind this year. This next fall, we have not yet made an official decision if we're going to be requiring test scores. If we really get rid of the test score requirement, we'll likely add in some sort of essay component, some additional information. So if you're, a junior this year, interested in applying in the future, definitely stay tuned, or you can always reach out to me. We'll have that information hopefully updated soon. But yeah, right now for this year, we're just looking at the types of classes you're taking, your rigor, if you're taking, AP, IB, honors courses, going above and beyond those general requirements. Your grade trends are hopefully going up, not down. But if you're ever maybe you're finding yourself lower than this GPA average, you're kind of uncertain about maybe some additional things that could strengthen your application, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to kind of be honest with you about your chances of being admitted. So we do have an assured admission. So you still have to apply, but if you have a 3.6 unweighted cumulative GPA, you'd be assured admission. And then yes, our automatic scholarships. So, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Do you mind flipping back to the last slide again? I just wanted to. And then, for our viewers who maybe haven't heard of what assured admissions mean, would you mind explaining that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So assured admission just means that you can be confident that you're going to be admitted to WSU if you have a 3.6 unweighted cumulative GPA. And we use 9th through, I guess, 11th grade. If you are applying with that first semester of 12th grade grades available, we'll use that, but we use grades starting at 9th grade. So.
And you guys are rolling admissions, am I right?
Yes, we are. So yeah, we had started getting admissions decisions out starting, I think, in November this year. So usually just a couple of weeks. Sometimes we will ask a student to send in that first semester of senior year grades. So, even if you're applying early in the fall, sometimes we will want to wait to make a decision until we see how you're doing. But yeah.
Yeah, great. And then the assured admission, is it the same, the 3.64 in-state versus out-of-state students, or is there a difference?
Same.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then we have 2 scholarships that we automatically review you for when you apply. We get a lot of questions about the Western Undergraduate Exchange Scholarship, which a lot of schools on the western side of the country offer. We offer it to any out-of-state student that meets that GPA requirement. And really great to ask about WUI schools because every school awards the WUI really differently, and it's very confusing. For us, as long as you meet a 3.6 unweighted high school GPA, we will qualify you for the WUI automatically. We also call it the Distinguished Cougar Award, but this is regardless of what major you decide to pursue, you would qualify for that WUI. So if you are not quite at a 3.6 range, but you're 3.2 to a 3.59, you would instead be awarded the Cougar Award, which is $7,000 per year for 4 years. And again, if you're not quite sure what the WUI is, it's an agreement that basically makes your tuition about 1.5 times what the in-state tuition is. So as a state university, because we get state funding, in-state tuition is a lot less expensive. And if you're a Washington resident, you're paying taxes in Washington. So definitely is sometimes cheaper to stay in state for college, but this WUI scholarship can kind of help mitigate that cost difference for tuition. And I think I'll come back to transferable credits, but just to kind of talk about how that WUI might play in. Our Washington resident tuition is about $11,000 per year. Non-Washington resident tuition, out-of-state tuition is about $26,000 per year. So if you take out $11,000 per year, it's about 1.5 times the resident tuition. And then everything else would be that sort of same average cost of an in-state student. Our fees are going to be things that, our facility costs. There's 2 recreation centers that you have access to as a student, like rock climbing walls, pools, indoor, there's like an indoor track, there's weight rooms, things like that. There's napping pods, music practice rooms, things like that. So your fees go towards that. Other things, your fees cover that bus pass that I was talking about. And then indirect costs, that's housing, dining, books, other things to think about, transportation if you're flying back home over breaks. Those indirect costs vary. So first year, you're going to have a housing and dining plan. But after that, your costs might go down considerably. If you buy your books used, those costs can go down. If you choose a more vintage residence hall, your costs can go down. So those indirect costs can vary. But yeah, the biggest difference would be tuition. And then if any of you have transferable credit, so AP, IB, maybe you've taken those official exams and have scores. Maybe you have CLEP credits, maybe you have college in the high school, or maybe you've been able to actually attend some community college classes or do those online. You can get credit for those really easily at WSU. So we have charts on our website that would show you, what score you would need to get that college credit. And that's another great question. You can always reach out to me and I can help answer those questions. Yeah.
Another question. This is all really great. Thank you also for explaining what the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program is and what it really looks like. We do get a lot of students whose parents from the start say in-state only because of tuition. They're like, a UC tuition would be fine, and then we're like, oh, but there are out-of-state, wonderful out-of-state schools like WSU that would actually allow you to pay in the mid-20s or so, depending on whether or not you can get the WUI award. So that was a really great explanation. I was wondering, since you do offer admission on a rolling basis, so let's say a student applies in October, they'll probably find out whether they got in by sometime in November. Would, at the same time that they receive their admissions letter, would they also be receiving their financial aid and scholarship award letter, or does that come later?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you would find out automatically if you, and I mean, you can kind of know with the Cougar Award and the Distinguished Cougar Award / WUI, if as long as you kind of have an idea of your unweighted cumulative GPA, you can be confident that you'll receive that award. And you'll receive a letter soon after you're admitted that details that scholarship. However, for like the FAFSA, financial aid, or for, which I will talk about now, our scholarship application. So again, just to reiterate, you do not have to apply for the WUI. Sorry, I'm hopping all around. You don't have to apply for the WUI or for the Cougar Award. Those are automatic based off of your transcript when you apply. However, we do have a additional scholarship application that could review you for honors program scholarships, departmental scholarships. The College of Business has a ton of scholarships. The random scholarship for the student who's done ultimate frisbee. So there's other scholarships available, and those have an additional application you would fill out. So it's optional, but if you want to apply for that, there's a couple, I think there's 6 little short essay questions on the scholarship application. There's a bunch of boxes you can check based off of your activities. That's kind of where you can input your activities list per se. And that'll review you for additional scholarships. So for those, that awarding typically doesn't start until after that application deadline, which is January 31st. So those scholarships don't start going out until after that date. So kind of into the spring sometimes, but you can at least be sure about kind of your admissions related scholarship. All right.
Sorry, I was muted. When is the scholarship application? When should the students fill that out? When does it open? When does it close? What's the time?
Yeah, it opens up typically around the same time as the application for admission. And it's found at the same website where you submit your application for WSU, which would be, scholarship. There's the scholarship application, which you can select as well to fill out. And it's typically due by January 31st, but we've extended that deadline until March 15th. So plenty of time to still fill that out if you are interested. And then we also sometimes, which I definitely should point out, let me hop back over to this slide. So we have a lot of questions, especially because that WUI scholarship is so great, 11,000 per year. If you find yourself, maybe you're like, I'm a 3.58 and I just barely don't qualify. Usually we're able to use that first semester of senior year grades. So if your GPA has gone up a little bit, It's pretty hard to jump from like a 3.2 to a 3.6 in a semester, but you maybe are just a few points off. Maybe you're a 3.15. You almost are awarded the Cougar Award. That's always a great chance to reach out to me. I can, request that first semester senior year grades. So never hurts to ask. Definitely always ask a bunch of questions. Yeah. Any other kind of big questions? I think that is it for me. This last slide is no longer accurate, so we'll just kind of hop back to that. But again, March 15th is our final deadline this year for admission and for scholarships. But yeah, I think that's it for me. So I will stop sharing. But if I can perhaps provide actually, I think it might be on this side. I think I have my email that I can put up. But yeah, if there are any other questions.
I've asked a lot, William. Go ahead and ask yours.
One thing I'll also say is that we have a lot of different events throughout the year. This year, they've all been virtual, but we have an admitted student event called Experience that will have, as students are starting to get admitted and they're kind of trying to make that final college decision, we have some admitted student virtual events where you'll actually get to hear from some current students, from different faculty and advisors in different majors. And yeah, if you ever want to like set up a phone appointment or a Zoom appointment with me, happy to do that. Or if you want me to help you get connected with an advisor for a specific major. I'm not an expert in all 200 programs, but I'm happy to help get you connected where I can. So.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I have a few questions. First, I guess probably what's a pretty quick one. In terms of class sizes, I noticed when looking at some of the kind of stats for Washington State that and this is normal with state universities, with big public universities, there do seem to be some pretty large classes. I'm curious if you would know or could estimate what the largest class size would be.
I think the largest class on our campus is English 101, and I think it's 200 students in the class. So that's the largest one. If you have the opportunity to, get AP or IB credit or college, in the high school credit, a lot of students are able to knock that out before they come to WSU. But yeah, I think that's our largest class.
Okay. Yeah, and in a class size like that, or in a class setting where it's probably like a lecture hall, would it frequently be taught by a graduate student, a professor's assistant? And are there any what's the word? Any sort of things in place basically to help students with more direct support? If let's say they needed help with an assignment or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I think, again, that is the only class that's taught by graduate assistants. So all the rest of our classes are taught by faculty. And then we do have a writing center on campus. So there's there's a tutoring center, there's a math lab, and then there's also a specific writing center. So I would say that's a really helpful opportunity for students.
Awesome. Okay. Great. And
sorry to interject, but what's the average class size? I don't know if you mentioned it and I missed it.
Yeah, I think so for freshmen for first year, I think 50 to 70 students is kind of the average for for first year classes, but 80% of our classes have 50 students or less. So yeah, classes definitely get smaller as you get up in your major.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I wanted to ask just about, a lot of the students we work with are looking for either a balance of traditional and hands-on learning, or more heavily weighted towards hands-on and experiential learning. How much of an emphasis does Washington State put on kind of bringing those opportunities into the classroom for students and out of the classroom?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, like getting research experience is not that competitive at WSU, so that's really great. And then I would also say it really varies by major, which major you choose. Some of our majors have internships and practicums built into them. So like, for example, sports management, you're going to have 4 credits, about 180 hours of practicum experience working with like our sports teams, intramurals, local teams. And then your last semester at WSU, you'll actually be off campus. You could be back in your hometown. You could be somewhere else in the world doing an internship. So some of our majors are very, very hands-on. Other programs have optional experiences like criminal justice and criminology. To earn some of your elective credit to graduate with that major, you can do an internship, or you can do just another class that covers that requirement. So kind of definitely opportunities. I would say there's definitely a balance, but some of our majors, like our College of Communication, very, very hands-on, experience-based. So yeah, if you have like specific questions about majors, yeah, I always recommend students reach out to me and I can kind of explain that program more.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do actually, there are so many, like you said, there's over 200 majors, and there's so many interesting and unique ones. I do want to ask about a few, but one kind of more general question first is, so you mentioned internships, and obviously Pullman is a small town; it's a college town. What kind of access do students have to internships in the local area? And if something is not available in Pullman, is it relatively easy to get connected in, let's say Spokane or Seattle or Everett?
Yeah, I would say like for our majors that require internships, our professors have like lists of local areas that they can intern with. So like, especially for students like interested in pre-med, nursing, like you really need to have those internship hours to be competitive. So there's like a regional hospital that's about 5 minutes away from campus. A lot of our engineering students also need to have internship experience, and there's local engineering firms. So there are actually plenty of things in the Pullman area, surprisingly, for students, but a lot of students do like complete their internship over the summer, are recruited, over to the Seattle area, come back to their hometown. So, but yeah, there actually is a surprising amount of internship opportunity in town.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, some of the interesting kind of majors and programs I wanted to ask about. So I have a student I'm working with right now who's a senior, and he's applied to some schools, but he's looking to apply to some more. And he's interested in fashion design, but also marketing. Like his goal is to start his own kind of clothing brand and line. So
Okay.
he's interested in both kind of the creative side of it and also the business and how to promote his brand sort of. So I noticed you have an apparel, merchandising, design, and textiles as a major. Could you maybe just tell me a little bit about that program?
Yeah, for sure. So that would definitely be a very hands-on program to be involved in. And there's some industry tours that students get to do. They'll often like go over to the Seattle area, kind of like on a field trip with other students in their class. And then there actually are some study abroad opportunities that are related to that major that students can do too. So I think have been trips to Italy in the past. We've had students come down to like the LA area, which is very close to you guys. So yeah, there definitely are cool hands-on opportunities there. And then there's a center for entrepreneurship on campus too. So students can actually put together their own projects and like pitch their ideas. There's opportunities to get funding. And that's open to any student, any major. There's like specific certifications students can get. So there could definitely be some cool minors that students could tack on. But yeah, that would definitely be probably a good fit.
Yeah, that sounds really good. A really good combination of the elements that this student is looking for that would be really helpful. Great. Okay. Okay. So also I wanted to ask about actually another one you mentioned, which was criminal justice and criminology.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's actually, we have the oldest criminal justice program in the nation. So that's really cool. I think it was established in like 1943. So it's a very old program. But yeah, we started like one of the first like national organizations for that major. So that's another program that students have done study abroad with. They've gone to London, I think, in the past and got to like tour Scotland Yard and Parliament. So some cool options there. And then a lot of students will get, experience in law enforcement. Pretty much like a lot of our law enforcement in Washington State has graduated from WSU. But there's some cool opportunities. I certainly hear a lot of students like wanting to work for the FBI and things like that. But our advisors can work with them starting that freshman year, and can kind of help them. Again, if there's sometimes like a minor, maybe it's computer science or something else that can make them more competitive for their career goals, if they have something specific. And then we have graduate programs in that area too. So yeah, good options.
So let me ask about one more program, and and then I'll see if Josephine has any questions or anything more general. So one of the most popular majors for students that I work with, and that I think we work with in general, that strive to learn, is business, various majors within the business field. And I noticed that Washington State has a lot of different majors and concentrations. So you mentioned the Center for Entrepreneurship, which seems like a really cool additional resource. Are there any other highlights that you would mention about the business opportunities?
Yeah. So another thing I like to mention. So basically for all of our business majors, they would start out with the sort of same core classes that they would complete. And then once they complete those courses, they'd be admitted into one of our business majors. And all of our business majors, something I think is kind of unusual is that they have to complete an international experiences requirement. So whether that's going finance or accounting, that means that they have to either minor in a language to go along with their business degree, or they have to do a study abroad trip. Or if they're already fluent in another language, they can sometimes get that requirement waived. But I think that's probably one of the most unusual parts of our program. It's kind of a big, like, wanting students to have a global understanding when they go into that business field.
And for, since William and I kind of looked all this up before chatting with you, but people who watch this recording may not have. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about the unique concentrations or areas of business that you guys have? You mentioned some more traditional ones like accounting or finance, but I know you guys have some niche ones, so I'd love our students to hear about them.
Yeah, I think our most top rated program is our hospitality business management program. That's probably like our strongest and very, very hands-on program. Students have to have, I think, like 1,200 hours of experience by the time they graduate. So very, very hands-on in that regard. And there's kind of some different areas students can go into without, sorry,
how many hours was that?
I think it's 1,200. Yeah. So very experience-based. And then let me see if I can pull up business.
It's funny because I have a student who was admitted to WSU, which is really exciting, and she admitted into the hospitality business management.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's a really great program. Yeah, and our business degree, our online business degree is ranked like number 3 in the nation. So we were definitely in a good situation to go virtual with business this year. But yeah. And then, there's entrepreneurship. That's a minor that students can tack on. Wine and beverage business management, I think, is kind of unusual because, again, we have that wine and fermentation sciences major over in Tri-Cities. So there's the business side of that, the more agricultural side of that. There's kind of a huge range for that area.
And the wine and beverage, was that a concentration or a minor?
That's a minor.
And so could a student, for example, do a concentration hospitality business management?
Actually, wine and beverage business management is also offered as a major. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if that could be combined with the hospitality business, because it sounds like they might go hand in hand depending what the student wants.
Yeah, I think a student could double major because, again, like a lot of the core requirements for that degree would be the same. And then they would just have a couple specific to hospitality business management and a couple specific to the other. So that could be just maybe a minor that they do, or another, like a dual major. Yeah. And then I think I didn't really mention, I was going to talk a little bit about like our 2 like really specific honors options that we have. And one of those is nursing. So again, like most of our students come into WSU and would apply to nursing during their sophomore year of college. However, we do have one direct entry option with nursing as well. So there's 2 routes. Basically, you just apply to the honors college with a nursing interest, and you could be invited to apply direct entry into nursing. And that way you have a spot that freshman year. And then another honors specific option is for our doctorate of vet medicine. We have a specific pre-vet option where you would know that you've been admitted into the doctorate of vet medicine program during your freshman year. And it would you'd be able to complete your Bachelor of Science and your doctorate of vet medicine in 7 years instead of 8. So yeah, love to mention that for super driven pre-vet students.
Sorry, taking tons of notes. So you'd complete the bachelor's and the doctorate in veterinary science within 7 years instead of 8. Was that right?
So definitely very rigorous.
Do you have any other accelerated programs like these?
I think that's our only accelerated one, but we do have, I think this is somewhat typical to other universities, but we have our athletic training program, which gives you your Bachelor of Science in Sports Medicine and your Master's in Athletic Training in 5 years. We don't offer those separately, so you can't just get a Bachelor of Science in Sports Medicine. You have to also continue on through the athletic training program. But
so it's the Bachelor of Science in Sports Science?
Sports Medicine.
Sports Medicine. And then the Master's in?
Athletic Training.
Athletic training.
But then we also have Sports Management, and then we also have Sports Science, which is our version of kinesiology. And those are both offered as just bachelor's degrees. But
awesome. I have another question, a little more about the college culture, campus culture, community feel. You had mentioned that a fourth of the students are in Greek life, and that you have, I think, like 60 plus organizations, fraternities and sororities. We get right, there are different student types, like everyone's looking for something different or a different combination thereof. So we get some students who say like, oh my God, I can't wait to be, in a Greek system. We get other students who say never Greek, like don't want Greek. And we get students who say, I want to be in Greek really bad and only if they have houses. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about, what does Greek life actually mean at WSU, because it does have so many different facets. And if you decide not to join Greek life, would you still have a sense of community and belonging on campus, and how would that be built?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because there's definitely students looking for different types of college environments. So yeah, I guess I can say like one of my coworkers, she graduated from WSU and was part of Greek life. And she didn't rush until her sophomore year. And because she kind of had this like stereotype of, what Greek life is like in movies, and was like, I don't really want to be a part of that. But then she heard more about it during her freshman year. And so kind of her regret was like wishing she joined Greek life sooner. And then we also have students that are happy as can be, getting involved in other things on campus. So I would say like in terms of housing, not all of our Greek life fraternities and sororities have housing. So maybe you could be part of an organization that doesn't even have a house associated with it. And that's just kind of is less of like that residence feel, but still kind of that club, that organization to belong to. So there is variety for sure in terms of what you're looking for.
So you do have houses on campus as well?
Yes, we do. So yeah, kind of a little bit of both. Yeah, I didn't actually graduate from WSU. I went to another state institution in Washington that didn't have Greek life. And so I didn't really have a feel for what it was. I had a lot of assumptions and had a great college experience without it. So yeah, definitely I see both sides of it. But yeah, I think, you don't have to, if you want to check it out, go to the week of rushing, check it out, see if it's for you. If not, that's totally fine. But if you're curious about it at all, we often have info sessions where you can hear a little bit more about it. Yeah.
Great. And then you mentioned the writing center, the tutoring center, the math lab. And I'd love to hear a little bit more. I mean, some students might be applying to universities that have an average class size of 25 with a lot of classes between, 15 to 20. And so, and at universities like that, you kind of assume that you have great mentorships with your professors, that you can just walk into their office and sit down and hang out. Well, what does that look like? The professor-student relationship, the depth of the mentorships, et cetera, at WSU?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, even though we are a larger school, our student to faculty ratio is about 16-1. So it's not that wide of an expanse, but all of our faculty have open office hours each week. And especially for freshmen, I think they find that a lot of students aren't utilizing those office hours. That was my college experience too. I was so intimidated to talk to my faculty. I think a nice thing about WSU is that you're required to meet with your academic advisor at least once a semester, and you're advised by somebody that's in your major interest. So, that's a great way to start asking questions, and hopefully, kind of get encouragement into your career interests. But your faculty are such a wealth of knowledge. And if you're interested in research, all you have to do is like pester a couple of professors. We have specific like workshops that'll teach you like how to approach your professors for research interests. But yeah, it's not that hard to get research experience at WSU. And yeah, there's some really great relationships to be built.
So it sounds like if you're a student who, kind of seeks that relationship of mentorship from professors, you can absolutely get it by reaching out to the professor, going to office hours.
Yeah.
But that if you're not that into it, it's something that you could just be a student in a class without necessarily getting to know the professor better.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think even in like larger classes, our students say that like they're shocked by how many professors know them by name, even in a class of 60 students. So I mean, I don't think yeah, you're definitely not anonymous. Professors notice who's there and who isn't. But yeah, and I think with like some of our classes that are more hands-on, that are having you, present, do group projects, you're going to get more of a personalized experience. But definitely something to think about when you're a freshman in a large lecture hall style class. If you're not participating and you're not going to those office hours, you might be missing out on some opportunities.
And then I'm sorry, I know we're almost at time, but I'm curious too, since you had mentioned the tutoring center, math lab, writing center, what kind of beyond that, what kind of support services do you have for students, especially for students with disabilities?
Yeah.
We see a lot of students who have attention deficit issues, dyslexia, dyscalculia, things like that. What support do you have for them? And what like for example, if someone has dyscalculia, can they get around a core math requirement that would be part of their general education? Things like that. Are you malleable in that way?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. Yeah, I can first talk about our access center really briefly. So our access center would, serves current and like incoming students, if they have like, psychological, medical, physical disabilities. So a lot of that looks like, additional test taking time, reduced distraction, testing environments. But, it could be something students utilize every semester for 4 years. It could be maybe you broke your arm and you need somebody to take notes for you for one semester. So it really can vary. But, for students with IEPs or, things that they're aware about or aware of that they know they need assistance for, as soon as you're admitted to WSU and as soon as you enroll, you can submit an application to the Access Center. And then one of our Access Center advisors will set up kind of like an interview with you. And that can switch up, like what you need might switch up from semester to semester. So, but yeah, they can help with like, service animals, faculty, sorry, not faculty, like facility. Maybe you're having trouble accessing a specific building. So they can assist with that. And then,
And so you would have a
oh yeah, requirements. What was that?
so then would the student have a specific advisor at the Access Center that they can go to repeatedly throughout the semester?
That's a good question. I think that I don't know if that specific advisor would be assigned to you throughout your time. That's a good question. But yeah, you could certainly come back to the Access Center and work with an advisor
Great.
as needed.
Do
And
they
then
offer
yeah,
workshops? Do they offer workshops like time management or anything like
yes,
that?
they do. Yes, that's a great question. Yeah, so they do like education workshops and things like that. Um, and then yes, as far as um, kind of getting requirements waived, we do have like a lot of variety in terms of what can fit each category. So, if you are not going into engineering, you're not going to have to take calculus at WSU. That's fine. And so we have a wide variety of like math requirements that you could choose from to fit your one math general requirement that you need to graduate. So you will have to take some sort of math general requirement, but there's a lot of variety in terms of what you can take to fulfill that. So you probably won't have to take pre-calc, or there'll be options for you.
Right.
And every student has to do a math placement assessment when they come into WSU, unless you're coming in with college credit already. And then we'll start you at whatever level that is. When I started college, I tested in below the college level for math, and that's fine. I just started there and worked my way up until I met the requirements I needed. I didn't have a math heavy major, so that was fine for me. But yeah,
Great.
so that's how that works.
Great. I'll ask my last question because I know we're at time. William, you can feel free to ask another question after me. But my last question is, what kind of student would not thrive at WSU?
That's a good question. It's hard to phrase it that way. I think a student that is not looking to get involved, and a student looking for like a big city vibe is not going to be a good fit at WSU. Our students are really friendly and open. I think you'll find like on that side of the state, it's a really like kind of laid back vibe in Pullman area. And our students like are really looking for that college experience, looking for involvement. They want to live in a college town. So yeah.
Thank you.
I just have a really easy answer question. And I can probably find this out on the website, but I have you now. So is the campus accessible for visits right now? Or if not, do you know when?
Yes, that's a great question. So our campus students can visit, they can walk around campus, they can go into, if buildings are open, but we're not doing any campus tours right now, and students wouldn't be able to set up an appointment with an advisor. So yeah, certainly welcome to come to Pullman. We have a self-guided tour that students can print out, and they can always connect with me too for recommendations. Go into our bookstore. They can go get some Cougar Gold cheese that we're famous for, some ice cream. But yeah, they wouldn't be able to have an official tour.
Great. William, do you have anything else?
No, that was very informative. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions, so I appreciate.
My pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, what we're trying to do, obviously is create a wealth of resources for students and families so that if we have someone who's interested in WSU, this recording, or we're going to also probably factor this into our podcast series we're starting right now, so we're really excited, and then they could connect with you, already having a bit of base knowledge right there. So yeah, it's just really nice. And also for us as counselors, we usually visit a bunch of universities per year, physically traveling there, and that's not been possible. So this is just such a great opportunity for us to feel like we really are right there with you. Although all three of us are in California, I feel like we're all in Pullman right now. So just thank you so much for
my pleasure. It's just really fun.
Yeah,
for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you both.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.